I'll be discussing stock market prediction using artificial intelligence. So, before we actually begin discussing predicting the stock market, I would like to discuss the viability of actually predicting the stock market. So, one idea that makes this less viable is called the efficient market hypothesis. This states that stocks are always at a fair value based on information available to investors. Now, this leads me to pose a question. How can you predict the market if the prices are always at their fair values? I would say that you can't. However, there have been some ideas that have come along that have disproven this. One such idea is inefficient markets, which states that markets may not always represent their fair value. And this can be due to many reasons, such as speculation, delayed reaction, and an even lack of available information. One other idea is behavioral finance, which is the idea that human behavior is irrational and illogical, and therefore some of this can be seen in the market. So hopefully this kind of showed that the market can be predicted due to some inefficient markets and human behaviors. So now let's look at some approaches that we can use to predict the market. So one subfield that we'll be looking at today is machine learning, which is a subfield of AI that tries to make AI without using hard-coded rules. Now, a subfield of machine learning we'll be looking at today is deep learning, which takes the same approach, except it does so through the use of something called neural networks. Now, one approach, which is a machine learning approach called support vector machines, attempts to categorize data into binary fields by separating them using a hyperplane, which in this case is just a line called the decision boundary. What it does is it generates two categories. Anything on one side of the decision boundary is in a category A, and anything on the other side of the decision boundary is in a category B. And in the case of the stock market, our stock market model, one of these categories could be the price going up, and the other category could be the price going down. So the input we can actually give to the model to predict this could be the open and close prices, the min and max, and maybe even the date that you're going to be looking at. Now let's look at the deep learning approach. So this approach takes input into these yellow input layer, and the input can be the open and the close, the min max, and the date, the same as a support vector machine. What it will do is it'll take this input and feed it to a hidden layer, which will then process the information and then feed it to another hidden layer through a series of weighted connections. After passing it through enough hidden layers, it will eventually pass it to the output layer, which will generate a binary output in the case of the stock market prediction model, which will be the price going up or the price going down. So the specific approach that was used here was called LSTM, or long short-term memory, which essentially allows for the model to remember pieces of information for longer. Now, let's look at the results. So, as you can see on the left here, support vector machines had an 85% accuracy, whereas LSTM neural networks had a 90% accuracy, meaning that in this case, a deep learning approach worked better. However, I would like to point out that this graph actually starts at 82%, not 0%, so the differences are exaggerated. Now finally, I would like to talk about some more variables we could add to our models to hopefully improve the efficiency and the accuracy. So currently our models live in a bubble with only stock market price information being given to them. However, I feel it could be beneficial to give them more information. Since our market's inefficient and our people aren't logical, this information probably isn't sufficient. And we need our models to understand this. To do so, we could give them information on news sentiment, and this could potentially help improve model performance. And the overall goal of this would be to better predict the stock market using AI. And I think there's definitely a long way for AI to be able to go to understand these human irrationalities and the inefficiencies of our market. But there's profit as a big motivator for this. And I think that with that, there will be a lot more research into AI and the stock market prediction in the near future.